La. La 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 la. Okay. Oh my gosh, guys. I don't know why this video in particular just feels like I'm just nervous about it. I don't know why. You know what? I kind of know why. It's mainly because I don't usually just do videos of just me sitting here and talking, but this is like such a helpful video that I hope you take away a lot from it, pretty much. Because when I was looking for Housing Connect videos and how to apply for affordable housing apartments, I found that these videos were helpful, but then when I actually got through the process, there were so many parts of the process that I didn't know about. So yeah, this is the video that I've been putting off, but like, here we are, we're doing it. Hello. Hello everybody. My name is Ashley, also known as Ashley She Wrote. In today's video, I am going to go through the entire process of how I won the New York Affordable Housing Lottery. This is a chance. It's basically not something that comes and happens to a lot of people often, honestly. I had a friend who I used to work with, and she said she was applying and was like on waiting lists for like over 10 years. Also, hi Athena. She does not like closed doors, and so she's like right behind me meowing because I closed the door for the video, and she's like, ma'am, this is our only other room and I need to be able to go inside of it, and I don't understand why you closed it. You're gonna be fine. Just so you know, I Googled and learned how to do time codes just specifically for this video, because shout out to the people who do these kind of videos and like put time codes, because if you were like me, you basically have gone through probably a lot of videos and you probably know some of these things I'm gonna talk about. So I was like, let's do some time codes so that we can skip right to it. You know what I mean? Like, I might be going over something that you already know about. So, hey, okay, we got time codes. We figured it out. Let's basically start from the beginning. Where do you start? You start on Housing Connect 2.0. When I first started applying to affordable housing apartments, I started 4 years ago now. Maybe 4 years. I basically started applying for them as soon as I moved to New York. I did not find out about them until I worked with a coworker, as well as when me and my roommate got closer and like we started to talk a little bit more. She just mentioned it, but she was a little pessimistic about it, which I completely understand. She's been here for like 15, 20 years and never got it. And she's just like, you can apply, but like, I don't know if you're going to get it, you know, because it is a chance. It's like basically you just randomly get selected. It's wild. Basically, you start there. You just add basic info. You basically, you know, put how much you make a year, where do you live, your name, all the basics, right? Because they don't ask for all of the things that they ask for that I will be getting into this video later. But they don't ask for that when you're just applying. There are opportunities if you are in a relationship or you and your roommate still wants to live together but live in an affordable apartment. There are opportunities to basically get these apartments if it's not just one person. So that's something that you need to look at when you apply. This is the biggest thing. Do not apply for apartments that are not in, like, basically in your income bracket. You will automatically get rejected and it's a waste of time. So just don't. Like, apply for apartments that you actually qualify for. If you see an apartment, you're like, oh my gosh, like I really want this apartment. I hope I get it. Don't stop your chances there. Like, apply for everything that you qualify for, because you never know. Make sure that you check your email also, because that's where you'll get a notice. And Housing Connect, like, basically will send you an email, and then you can go on the Housing Connect website and essentially, you know, do all the next steps that we're about to get into in the video. If you can, or if you know how, like, mark Housing Connect or like the key words, the key terms, or even the email, if you end up getting an email from them, as important, because maybe you don't have your email notifications on and you just might miss it, or you're not somebody who checks your email daily. just mark it as important, and then you'll still get a notification for it. Another tidbit before we get into the next part of this video is get your information ready. So the next part is basically all the things that you will need if your log number is chosen. So basically when you apply, you get a log number, and that is basically how they identify you. That is how you get chosen. It's like a lottery ticket number pretty much, but for Housing Connect, it's called a log number. So yeah, that's basically where you start, and try to gather all the information ahead of time so that if you are chosen, or when you are chosen, you can manifest it and speak it into existence, because that's what I did, and here we are. When you get chosen, you're already going to have it ready, and the process is going to move so much faster, and the managers, the project managers, are going to appreciate you, and like just get it ready. Okay, so coffee break before we get into the next section, because maybe this coffee's gonna get watery and I ain't got time for that. Okay. Let's get into the second part of the video. So what to expect when you are contacted? Yes, Athena. She really hates these closed doors, so I guess I gotta do something about it, because you're gonna hear her. Anyways, the door is now cracked, and literally she is just like sitting on the rug, and she's like, yes, thank you. I wanted some darkness. It's bright in here, and I just don't like closed doors. So moving on, back to the video. What to expect when you are contacted. I was contacted via email, like I mentioned before, and I was told to put all of my documents on Housing Connect 2.0. And this is where it gets insane. So I didn't even write down all of the things that I needed to submit. So I'm going to put that right now, right here. Housing Connect has a PDF of checklists and resources that you need. So essentially, I had to turn in almost 95% of the things on this list. And I will go ahead and put this in the description of this video, but I am going to just briefly go over this, because then this video will be so long if I read every single thing. So this is something that you'll have to read on your own time. But yeah, so basically you need everything for your current apartment, like your lease, like your signed lease, your electric or gas bills. Everybody like that you're applying for is like your household members. I essentially was basically applying for myself, so I just had to do everything for just me, for one person. Your birth certificate, your social security card, also your driver's license, and all of your income documents. So like the last 6 months of your most consecutive pay stubs, W-2 forms, like every single thing, and like any additional income sources that you might have. They even asked me for my like life insurance cash value, because I have life insurance, and yeah, they asked for so much. But yeah, so then here's any other things that you should consider, like how's your credit, also like any landlord issues that you might have, because they do ask for your landlord's contact information. So these are all things you need to consider, and like I said, I'll put this in the description below. The biggest thing is, do not lie. Do not lie about your income. Like, they ask for every piece of information. Anything that you like get deposited into your account, they will ask you about. As an example, basically, when you go out with your friends, maybe one person might go, and just use one card to make it easier on the server, or they only take 3 cards and you're like in a big group. And so then you need to basically, and like you Venmo or you PayPal. So like there's been instances where I will put my card in, and people will Venmo me, and I will deposit it into my account. You better believe they were like, what is this? And I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about these like small purchases. They want to make sure that it's not some type of extra income that you're hiding. So when they reach out to you, it is not a guarantee that you have the apartment. Before this apartment, I have gotten contacted for 2 other apartments before this. So when I tell you, manifest it, manifest it. Not everybody is religious, and not everybody, believes in a higher power, but like manifest, universe, whatever it is that you believe in, just like, light some sage, just manifest it. Because, I said earlier that my roommate was like, oh, it's a, like, you're probably not gonna get it. And that was just like her experience. And like I said, the friend and the coworker that I used to work with never heard back from anything. And so in my 4 years of living in New York, I had gotten contacted 3 times. And the third time is this apartment. Another tip is get all of your information in as soon as possible. Like, don't lollygag. You have a deadline to put in all of your information. If you don't meet the deadline, you're out. They got a lot of people who want these apartments and want to live in an affordable apartment and are looking for the opportunity to live by themselves. And they will move to the next person. You know what I mean? Make it as easy as possible for the project managers so that they won't be sitting here going through all these different PDF files. So basically what I did for like my pay stubs is I combine them all into one PDF for them. They asked for months of pay stubs and they're all different. And like I said, I did after school activities. So I had a separate pay stub for that. So like imagine being a project manager and basically having to open individually each of those documents. I was like, that's annoying. I'm not going to do that. So I compiled everything into one PDF. So basically, if they asked for multiple months of pay stubs, I had that in one PDF. My identification, which was like my license, my birth certificate, I scanned it and put it in one PDF instead of being like, this is my ID, here's one PDF for this, and this is my birth certificate, here's one PDF for that. I put it all in one. Just make it as easy as possible so that the project manager could be like, yo, I'm rooting for this person. They made my job easier. Just do it. Another tip when it comes to submitting your documentation is don't be afraid to ask for clarity about a requested document. Like the first email notification that I got about this apartment, it had a contact number and a contact email. I definitely reached out to the email first because calling is kind of inconvenient, especially when this is something that they're doing on the daily with multiple people. So first I would suggest is email and ask for clarification and, give it a few days. Because remember, you are on a deadline, and then call if you really need to and they're not getting back to you. But in my experience, they were pretty quick. Make sure before you submit, you have everything. I mean, like, double check every document. Like, don't get lazy with this. Like, if you want this apartment and you want to be in an affordable housing apartment, don't be lazy with it. Because in the email that I was looking at, to review all of this, because it's been a year since I've been in this apartment, I was like, oh, shoot, I didn't even see at the bottom that it was like, if you, put in the wrong documentation, you will be rejected. Like, that's what I mean. Contact those people, that email, that phone number, because you want to make sure you turn in the right thing and you don't want to miss out on your chance. Okay, so this section is the appeal process because your girl got denied. Here I am, but I got denied and I knew exactly why I got denied, and I'm going to go ahead and talk about it. One thing is they will tell you why you got denied, so that way you can do a proper appeal. Because you know the reason why you got denied. So I got denied because they said I did not make enough money. And at the time, my pay stubs were so inconsistent. That was a freaking wild school year. Okay. So I know this is like a whole nother video, but to shorten it, I was a kindergarten teacher at the time for 2 years at the same school. This was my 3rd year at the school. This 3rd year, I was supposed to be basically associate teacher in 1st grade. So was moving from kindergarten to 1st grade. And very last minute, like before the school started, maybe 3 weeks before the school started, I got a call from my boss and was like, hey, do you want to go back to kindergarten and work with the teacher that you've been working with as a head teacher, because I had already graduated. I had my master's degree. And at the time I had worked with that teacher for 2 years. And of course, more money, more experience. And so I said yes. I did not sign a contract immediately, though, because I had already had a contract with them before. And the reason why they asked me to be a temporary head teacher is because of over-enrollment. And basically, I had expected to get my contract before the school year started, but literally, like, I kept emailing, I kept trying to figure out what was going on with my contract, and I wasn't hearing back, but I was doing head teacher work. So essentially, to sum it up, we had 2 kids drop out, and so that put our numbers back at like the standard classroom size, which meant that you did not need 2 head teachers anymore. And because I had already had a contract at this school, they basically were trying to demote me and also keep me in kindergarten and not allow me to go back to first grade. So I wasn't having that, okay? Because had they hired someone new, they would have had to given them a contract before they even started working. But because I had 2 years of basically experience with the school and I trusted that they would and everything would work out, I definitely pressed it. I definitely emailed and all of that, like what's going on with my contract. And I had paper trail to support that. I just started working because I was like, I'm gonna get my contract. It's fine. But they tried to demote me and make me go back to being an associate teacher and be teaching kindergarten with the same teacher I had already been with for the past 2 years. So that meant like no different experience. And also it was just very unethical, because had they hired someone new, like I said, they wouldn't have been able to take that position away from them. So luckily, this school had a union. So the first 3 months, I was still basically getting my associate teacher salary instead of my head teacher salary. So my pay stubs only supported that. And when I was applying for the Housing Connect apartment, I knew that it was going to look so freaking messed up, because it's like a whole like $20,000 difference. It's like a $25,000 difference in pay. So for one, wasn't having that. And of course, if I was basically still making the same amount of money as an associate teacher, I would not have qualified for this apartment because I was not in the income bracket. So to jump ahead, I ended up winning, which of course, because hello, I had paper trail. My mother didn't raise me to sit there and take any mess from a company or a business or a school, whatever you want to call it. It was not happening. They had to basically pay me back for all of the money that I should have been making those like 3 months of us being in type of a battle or whatever. And so I ended up getting like one big check 4 months later into the school year. The project manager that was working on my case, they basically saw that pay stub with like the extra money, but it didn't make any sense. So I had to basically, in my appeal, write out, hey, the inconsistent pay stubs is because of this, and that. And I also still got a separate pay stub from working after school. So like, I can only imagine the project manager looking at this being like, you don't make enough money. Why are you trying to lie? Like, what's going on? So in order to basically like prove my case, I asked my after school supervisor to write a letter. And I also reached out to my HR rep and basically asked them to write a letter to support my claim. Oh my gosh. So this school basically almost made me lose an amazing opportunity because of me having to go through that appeal process and me basically having to fight for a position that was already offered to me. So once I won the appeal, I heard back from the project manager and I was invited to do a private showing of the apartment, man. Like, I was like, I won another appeal. Like, Mama, thank you. my mom is amazing. Okay. You know what I mean? Like, she has taught me so much, and I basically had to go through 2 appeals at once and like won both of them. And I was like, ew, like, let's go. Okay. All right. On to the next part. The private showing of the apartment. So when I got in contact with the agent, she said, I want to show you 2 apartments because your name popped up for 2 apartments. And as I was talking about this just now, I'm like, wait, did I even do all the documentation for that other apartment? And I think I did. And I did the appeal twice for both of them. So I mainly was just focusing on this apartment, but there was another apartment that I did qualify for and had an option. I can't believe that I actually had an option of which affordable apartment that I wanted. Like, I was, my gosh, like that's crazy to me. Like, some people don't even get contacted for one, and here the agent is like, you get to choose, and I'm like, what? So it was actually a no-brainer for me. One of the apartments that she was showing me was a 1-bedroom apartment. It was very, very deep into Brooklyn. Like, the commute to work at the time would have been like 45 minutes, maybe. And when I first moved here, I had that kind of a commute to work and school and all that. And I was like, oh my gosh, I want to find somewhere that's I'm going to be able to be at for a long time, and I don't want to have a 45-minute commute. I also looked at the atmosphere of the neighborhood because I got there a little earlier so that I can walk around, and I was like, I really don't like this. In this particular neighborhood, I was like, I don't actually feel safe. Like, I'll walk outside, and I just like was walking around different blocks or whatever, and it was nighttime, and I was like, I don't feel safe. So like, this is not something that I'm willing to give up. I'm willing to continue to live with my 2 roommates and pay way less money, you know what I mean? And be in a nice neighborhood, only have maybe like a 20-minute commute into the city. And yeah, so no. And then a couple of days later, we met up and we saw this place. And I was like, this is also a neighborhood that I like wasn't really in too much, and I didn't know too much about it, and so I walked around like I did with the other place, and I was just like, where am I? Like, what is going on? There's no way I'm about to look at a apartment inside of this building. Like, no way. So when I went to the showing for this one, it's a studio apartment, and the amenities were just like crazy. There's a gym inside the building. There's a residential lounge as well that I could go into if I wanted to get out of my apartment, or you can also rent it out if you wanted to have a party, but I don't have that many friends, so I'm not about to rent out anything, but basically you could if you wanted to. There's a doorman, which is like safety, you know what I mean? That goes back into safety. This apartment was $300 more than the 1-bedroom, and it's mainly because of the amenities. And the neighborhood, and yeah, pretty much those 2 things, the neighborhood and the amenities. So yeah, there's also laundry in the building, and it's just a nice neighborhood. So I chose this one. The agent let me know, hey, you have priority over both apartments. So basically, they're still showing other people these apartments. So if I was to say no, they move down to the next person on the list. And it was really great to hear from the agent that I was like on top. Like, I was the first person on the list. I said no to the other apartment. They moved to the next person. And I said yes to this one. I had top choice. It wasn't anyone above me. It wasn't like, oh, well, we have to wait to hear back from an answer from someone else. It was me that everybody else was waiting for me to say no so that they can get a chance, which, like, another mind-blowing thing is it's like absolutely wild. But yeah, so I said yes to this apartment, and then we moved on to the next part, which was more documents. So many documents. But yeah, so after I chose, the project manager and we had like constant communication. I also had to sign their documents, which basically their documents was just like a compiled, summarized thing of all the documents that I had given them. So basically it had like, you know, my address, or it had like my income and like all the things, but in their forms. This is just a guess, but I'm assuming, you know, they had to submit all these things to the landlord, and they can't just give it to them the same way that I gave my forms to them. So like, I wonder if that makes sense. But essentially it was just like a more business-like form to give to the landlord, so the landlord can know that I actually qualify for this apartment. They triple checked again, and there was some additional things that they needed from me to verify. Like, you cannot lie. Do not lie. Don't even think about lying, because you're literally going to put yourself in a position where you're not going to be trusted in the system. Because there are some of these places, these management, they manage a lot of affordable housing apartments. So like, if you go through this process and you're trying to lie, and then your name, or your log number rather, gets pulled up for the next apartment, they're gonna know, like, this person, they lied so much about their income. So now we have this person again, and they're not gonna trust you. So like, just don't do it. So yeah, that was the next step. And then I finally got the lease. I finally got the lease after basically turning in every single piece of identification, all of my personal information, my pay stubs, letting them know where I was born, my daddy's social security number, my mom's social security number. Well, and listen here, I had to basically just tell them exactly where I lived 3 years ago, 5 years ago, all the things. I got a lease. Yeah, so I asked the project manager to send me a PDF of the lease ahead of time so that I can review. That is something that you should definitely do if, you know, you want to review it, because I had to sign it in person. I reviewed it, and I had to bring 2 certified checks. One was the first month's rent, and also the deposit. The deposit was the first month's rent. So I had to give up a lot of money at once, and thankfully I was making a lot more money as a kindergarten teacher, as a head teacher, because I fought for that position. Okay, I fought for that position, even though I didn't need to. That was a fight I shouldn't have fought, but thankfully I was making a lot more money, and I also had a savings account. So that is one thing you might need to consider. You need to make sure, if you are making a big jump in rent like I did, which I will get into that in a little bit, you gotta make sure you have some money, because it says affordable, but this is New York. Okay. So is anything actually affordable in this city? Just everything is high, okay? Everything is high in this state, bro. Let me not say the state. That's why I mean city, like New York City, because you go upstate New York and like there's all the other cities in New York, you know what I mean? But like, nothing's affordable. That's my purpose. So back to this, because I'm getting off topic and I just keep thinking about all the money that I keep spending in this freaking city. Because I unfortunately did not bring 2 certified checks. I brought 2 regular checks because I misunderstood. The difference between a certified check and a regular check is a certified check you pay for in advance, and it's certified, and it's boom, the money is actually there and it exists. A regular check, they have to go to the bank. It could actually get, rejected, all those things that could happen. And so I didn't understand that. At this point, I was so freaking sweet to this project manager. Every step of the way, I was always like, thank you so much for your patience. I kept them updated if I was gathering information, if I was like still in the process of waiting for something like to hear back from my HR rep. I was updating them like crazy. I was killing them with kindness. Okay. So when I got there and I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't know that it needed to be a certified check. She did say that in the email, but I'm still learning. Like, I didn't know that it had to be like prepaid. So we did an alternative way. And thankfully it didn't really like hold up the process. So make sure you bring 2 certified checks and don't do what I did. So, okay, the next section is questions that you should ask before signing the lease. These are questions that I ask, not saying that you have to, but this is just, my experience. I asked them, will I have to provide these documents again for lease renewal? Because this was a process, I tell you. I was like, do I have to do this again? Like, do I have to basically give you my mother's social, my dad's social again? Do I have to give you 6 months of pay stubs again? Whatever. The answer was no. So I signed my lease February 10th. I moved in February 28th, a day after my birthday. And it is now, today is April 2nd, 2023. I have renewed my lease, and I can be a witness and basically someone to tell you that I did not have to do that again. And oh my gosh, I was so happy. I was so happy to receive the email, the regular email, basically being like, time for your lease renewal. And I was like, thank goodness I ain't gotta go ahead and give you every single thing again. Thank goodness. But this question was important to me because I knew that I did not want to stay at that school any longer. I did not want to be trapped in a career or an income bracket forever. That would have impacted my decision on this apartment, because had I moved out of my last apartment and moved here, and a year later I would have had to turn in all those documents again, or potentially be making less money, I was worried that I would have to move again. And I was not willing to do that. I cannot just keep moving all over, okay? Like, it's just not for me. I'm not about to keep moving all over. Another question that I asked was, does this building allow pets if I choose to get one? Even though I'm sure other people had animals, I wasn't sure if the rules applied the same to me, considering I am living in an affordable apartment. I'm paying less than a lot of people in this building. And I was like, yo, what if they told me I can't get a pet? Because I know dang well that I'm ready to get another kitty or a cat at some point. I asked them and they said, yes, you can get a pet. You just got to let the landlord know. And then, of course, just, I don't know why this is even a thing. But yeah, a pet fee. You gotta pay a pet fee, which I know why. Before you come in my comments and be like, what if they destroy something? But the pet fees hurt, okay? Like, come on, man. I just want an animal, and I will make sure it is spotless in here when I move out, okay? But I know everybody's not like that, so yeah. Little coffee break, because man, everything is so expensive. Life is freaking expensive, man. So those are the questions that I asked. I know it was only 2 questions, but that first question is super important. I really, really highly recommend that you ask that, because I knew, like I said, I didn't want to stay at that school, but I also knew that I didn't want to stay in teaching forever. So now I'm doing content creating. I'm doing part-time nannying. I'm hustling. I'm not making the same amount of money that I was making yet, but I will be, and I'll also be making even more money, because don't get me started on the fact that teachers don't get paid enough. Okay, that is a whole nother video, a whole nother topic. We're not getting into that. But I will be making way more money than I was when I was teaching. So I just didn't want to be restricted career-wise, because I knew I wanted to do a career change. So I'm glad I asked that question, and here we are. A thing that you should know, at least for me, it might be different for you if you go ahead and go through this entire process and get to this step. You can sign for 2 years or you can sign for 1 year. And I, at the time, only signed for 1 year. The con for that is the rent stayed the same for 6 months, but it was going to go up about $25 after that 6 months, all the way up until the lease is up. I have no idea why they do that, but part of me believes that they do it just so they can, creep up your rent. This apartment is a rent stabilized apartment. And what that means is my rent cannot jump up a crazy amount each year. So with this most recent lease renewal, my rent went up $50. And it's going to stay the same for the entire year. So the last year, my last lease, it stayed the same for 6 months. And after 6 months, it went up $25. Whereas now It went up $50, but it's going to stay that entire way for the next 12 months. I did have the option to do 2 years, but because of some personal things that's going on, I was not sure if that was going to be a thing for me, if I was going to be able to stay here for another 2 years, because I have some personal things going on in my life with family. And so I didn't want to be locked in for 2 years. I'm sure this is the moment that everybody has been waiting for. How much do I pay? And this is one of the things where I was like, do I put this in here? Do I say how much I pay for this apartment? Because when I say this number out loud, I'm like, bro, this is not affordable. Not affordable at all. However, it is. Okay? So, in my neighborhood, in this building as well as other buildings, for a studio, the average is like about $3,500 a month. Saying that number out loud is wild to me. But that is the average amount, you know, in this neighborhood. And on my teacher salary, I could not afford that. That would have taken almost the entirety of my check. And of course you have taxes that gets taken out of your check. And so after taxes, that would have taken the entirety like of my check, and I would have just had like a little money left over. And most teachers get paid once a month. And absolutely not. So, currently what I pay is $2,341 a month for this apartment. Whew. It's April 2nd. I just paid it yesterday, and I'm kind of like, bruh. So listen, I know everybody who does not live in New York is about to be like, oh my God, you can buy and get buy 2 houses, and basically that's 2 houses of mortgage combined, and you could have a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom, or a 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom house for like $1,200 a month, and da-da-da. Trust me, I know. You ain't even gotta say it, because this is not the only place that I have lived. I have lived in Minnesota. I have lived in Louisiana. And I know. I've also traveled around. You know what I mean? So, like, I know what you can get. I also have sisters, and I also have family members that are literally just chilling with their rent, or their mortgage, rather. I know. This is New York, okay? And this is a price that I am willing to pay, especially in my late 20s. I am willing to pay this price to live here in this city, and it's so many opportunities. And there's so much livelihood. Like, I'm not somebody who's like out drinking at bars and staying up till 1 a.m. anymore. But there's just so much more things to do outside of drinking and aspects. So it's just New York, bro. It's just New York. So before you're like, this isn't affordable, people, and like I said, pay about $3,500 a month for a studio in this neighborhood. And it's affordable because it's rent stabilized, which I got into previously. And I'll give you this quick story. Basically, my friend we both were teachers, we were both making pretty much the same amount because we were around the same age, same experience. She was living in her building, and it was $2,100 a month for her. It's a studio apartment. She had it was definitely big. It was nice, spacious. The kitchen is separate. Obviously, the bathroom's also separate. And her amenity was laundry in the building. And that was her only amenity. She recently had to move out of her apartment when it was time for her to renew her lease, because her landlord increased her rent almost $800. And like I said, we were both making the same amount of money, both teachers, and that was not feasible for her. So she had to move out of her apartment, because landlords can legally do stuff like that here, which it's wild to me. A little bit of backstory between that is the apartments in her building were getting renovated. And that is one way that the landlords will try to get someone out of their apartment so that they can renovate their apartment and then charge even more money. So it's a tactic. So they can get them out of their apartment and just charge so much more and then just make more money. Whereas me, on the other hand, I don't have to worry about my rent even going close to $3,000 a month within the next 10 years. So even if this neighborhood blossoms even more, people start charging, or not people, landlords rather, start charging $4,000 for studios in this building or $4,000 in another building, they cannot legally raise my rent that high. They cannot just randomly jump up to $700. They cannot jump up $800. It is in my lease. It is a part of the rent stabilize law in New York. I don't know all these terms, so don't quote me. I'm not a lawyer, but basically it cannot. That is what makes it truly affordable. I have that security. And that's also something that I mentioned, or I asked. I was like, can they just increase my rent drastically before I sign the lease? That is one question that I forgot to mention earlier. But I asked that question and I said, no, they cannot do that. I really hope that you got everything you needed out of this video, because I know that when I was searching for these videos, I did not get that much information. So I'm hoping that this helps someone. Just because it's an affordable apartment, because I know y'all are still like, yo, girl, your apartment is not affordable. But just because it's a rent stabilized apartment doesn't mean that you have to take it. You always have to do what's best for you. And in this situation, this was what has been best for me. It has been a game changer. I started my YouTube channel as soon as I basically moved into this apartment, because I felt like I had the freedom. I no longer had to worry about hogging the kitchen, because I live by myself and I don't have to worry about roommates. So this has been a very positive experience for me, and it was a financial decision that I knew in the long run that I needed to make sure I can maintain, and I did make sure that I can maintain, and I am still maintaining. And if you have any questions, definitely comment. I will do my best to give you an answer, and if I don't, hopefully someone else who has gone through the process can answer it for you. And if I don't know the answer, I'll just straight up say I don't have the answer, but I ask that you be patient with me, because I am also a content creator on Twitch. I'm very much so active on TikTok. So I'm doing a lot. I'm trying to grind with this content creating, and I want it to pop off, because I absolutely love making these videos. I love making content for y'all. And so I'm hoping that we get the ball rolling and I don't have to do part-time nanny anymore. So yeah, thanks so much for watching. It was a long video, very detailed, but I hope you got everything that you needed out of it. And I hope to see you in my next video. So if you are interested in that, go ahead and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Goodbye. Watery coffee and myself, we're out.